A millionaire arrived by surprise and found his mother with Alzheimer's alongside his fiancée, and he couldn't hold back. They say money has no smell, but that day, in the staff bathroom of an estate in Forest Hill, the money reeked of dampness, cheap disinfectant, and the bitterest betrayal a son could ever taste. That Tuesday, Liam O'Connell, the construction mogul, the man featured on the covers of business magazines as the visionary of the year, was about to sign the most significant merger of his career. $50 million were on the table. Lawyers, international partners, and the press awaited him in the boardroom of his towering skyscraper in the financial district. But a call, a simple and strange anonymous 3-second call where only a muffled cry was heard, sent a chilling cold down Liam's spine. His instinct, the one that had earned him millions, screamed that something terrible was happening at his own home. He left the partners with pens poised, losing the contract. He lost millions in seconds. He drove his luxury sports car, breaking all speed limits, his heart pounding against his ribs like a hammer. Upon arriving at his mansion, the silence was absolute, too absolute. He didn't enter through the grand mahogany front door, he entered through the kitchen, guided by a dark premonition. What Liam found at the end of the hallway, behind the aha door of the old bathroom used by the gardeners, was an image that would tear his soul apart forever. There she was, Eleanor MacDonald, the woman who had laundered clothes for others for 40 years so he could go to university. The woman whose hands were deformed by arthritis and hard work, his mother, but she wasn't sitting in her favorite armchair watching her shows. She was on the floor, on dirty, broken tiles. She wore a ragged gray dress, full of stains, as if she were homeless. Eleanor, with her disheveled white hair and the vacant stare of Alzheimer's, clutched a box of crayons to her chest as if it were her only treasure in the world. She cried silently with that dry weeping of one who no longer has tears, trembling with pure terror. And standing before her was Genevieve Dubois, Liam's fiancée, the woman he believed to be an angel sent from heaven. Genevieve looked impeccable in a wine-colored silk dress, with perfect makeup and jewelry Liam had gifted her. But her face lacked the sweetness Liam knew. Her face was contorted by a grimace of disgust and cruelty. "Look at me when I speak to you, you useless old woman," Genevieve hissed. Not with a sharp voice, but with a poisonous whisper that echoed through the walls. "Do you think Liam is going to come and save you? He's closing deals. He's busy being important. You're a nuisance, a stain on his perfect life. If you soil your diaper again, I swear I'll leave you to sleep here locked up with the rats." Eleanor looked up, confused, searching for a kind face in the gloom. "Miss," the old woman stammered in a broken voice, "I want to go home. I want to see my son, Lee. He's good. He loves me." Genevieve let out a cold laugh, crossing her arms. "Your son sold you out, Eleanor, don't you understand? He pays me to take care of you because he can't stand you. You disgust him. That's why I keep you here, so you don't ruin his Persian rugs." Liam, hidden in the shadow of the doorway, felt his legs give way. Every word from Genevieve was a stab wound. He remembered all the times Genevieve had told him, "Don't worry, darling. Your mother is happy. I'm taking care of her. She adores you." He remembered the times he came home and found his mother asleep, supposedly resting, when in reality she was sedated not to bother. At that instant, seeing the woman who gave him life lying on the floor like an animal, and the woman who claimed to love him transformed into an executioner, Liam understood the most expensive lesson of his life. He had been so busy building concrete empires that he had allowed the foundations of his own family to rot. Genevieve raised her hand, threatening to snatch the box of crayons from the old woman. Eleanor flinched, closing her eyes, bracing for the blow. But the blow never came because Liam stepped forward from the darkness. "Keep talking, Genevieve," Liam said in a voice so low and charged with fury that the air in the room seemed to freeze. "I want to hear you explain this to the police." Genevieve spun on her heels, and the color drained from her face. Her eyes widened with the panic of someone whose mask has fallen. But to understand how such an intelligent man allowed her into his home, we have to go back 2 weeks, to the exact moment the trap began. 2 weeks before the incident in the bathroom. The O'Connell estate shone brighter than ever. That night, the family construction firm's 50th anniversary was being celebrated. It was all excessive luxury white-gloved waiters, crystal chandeliers imported from Austria, and Toronto's high society gathered in the grand ballroom. Liam adjusted his tie in front of the mirror. At 40 years old, he felt on top of the world. He had power, respect, and, he believed, love. Genevieve entered the room, dazzling. "You look incredibly handsome, darling," she said, approaching to adjust his pocket square. Her perfume was intoxicating, sweet yet intense. "Are you ready to announce our engagement tonight?" "More than ready," Liam replied, kissing her hand. "But I'm worried about Mom. This morning she didn't recognize me. She called me Robert, like my dad." Genevieve sighed, putting on that practiced, compassionate face she wore so well. "Oh, Liam, it's so hard to see her like this, but don't worry, Sarah has already dressed her. Though, honestly, love, do you think it's a good idea for her to come down to the party? You know how she gets with strangers. She might get scared. Or worse, she might do something that embarrasses you in front of the Asian investors." Liam frowned. "She's my mother, Genevieve. She built this company with me brick by brick when my dad died. She has to be there. It's her night too." Of course. I only say it to protect her," Genevieve quickly said, stroking his cheek. "I don't want her to suffer. But if you want her to come down, I'll go myself to make sure she's perfect." Genevieve left the room with an angelic smile, but as soon as she closed the door and walked towards Eleanor's room, her expression changed. Her eyes turned cold, calculating. She walked with firm steps, annoyed at having to deal with the old woman. In the guest room, because Genevieve had suggested moving Eleanor out of the master bedroom for her safety due to the stairs, Sarah Jenkins, the trusted housekeeper and longtime carer, was finishing Eleanor's hair. "Just look at yourself, Eleanor," Sarah said with genuine affection, showing her a mirror. "You look like a movie star." Eleanor smiled, caressing the fabric of her navy blue dress. "Is Lee coming?" the old woman asked innocently. "I made him a drawing." "Yes, my dear, your son is coming," Sarah replied. The door burst open. Genevieve entered without knocking. She scanned the old woman from head to toe with disapproval. "Sarah, leave us alone. Liam asked me to give her the finishing touches. But Miss Genevieve, she's already ready." "Only," Sarah tried to protest. "I said get out." Genevieve cut her off, though she quickly lowered her voice. "Go to the kitchen. They need help with the canapés. I'll take care of my mother-in-law." Sarah left reluctantly, casting a worried glance at Eleanor. As soon as they were alone, Genevieve approached the old woman. "That dress looks awful on you," Genevieve whispered, tearing off a silver brooch Eleanor wore on her chest. "You look like a badly dressed scarecrow, but it doesn't matter. We're going downstairs, and you're going to do exactly what I tell you. If you misbehave, no breakfast tomorrow. Understood?" Eleanor nodded, frightened, not understanding why her son's fiancée was angry. The party was in full swing when Liam descended the stairs with Genevieve on one arm and his mother on the other. Applause resonated. Liam took the microphone, beaming. "Thank you all for coming. Tonight, I celebrate not only the success of the company but also the woman who made it possible, my mother, Eleanor. And I also want to introduce the woman who will be my wife, Genevieve." Everything was going well. Genevieve smiled for the cameras, but then she put her plan into action. While Liam greeted a partner, Genevieve, with an almost imperceptible movement, subtly nudged Eleanor's elbow, just as a waiter passed by with a tray of red wine glasses. The collision was inevitable. The tray fell. Red wine splashed onto the white dress of the most important investor's wife that night. The crash of broken glass silenced the ballroom. Eleanor, startled by the noise, began to scream and flail, confused and agitated by the stress. "Fire! Fire!" the old woman cried, lost in a hallucination from the past. The awkward silence of the guests was heavy like lead. Liam rushed to her, embarrassed and concerned. Mom, calm down. It's okay." He tried to soothe her, but Genevieve seized the moment. She knelt dramatically beside Eleanor, pretending to protect her, but actually pinching her arm hard to make her scream more. "Oh my God, she's having an aggressive episode," Genevieve shouted for all to hear. "Please, someone help me. She's hurting me." It was a lie, but in everyone's eyes, it looked like the poor old woman was attacking the sweet fiancée. Liam, desperate, looked at the murmuring guests. He felt humiliated. He felt his professional image crumbling. "Take her away," Liam ordered the security guards, pain in his voice. "Take her to a room, please." When the party ended, the atmosphere was funereal. Liam sat in the living room with his head in his hands. Genevieve approached and poured him a scotch. "I told you, darling," she whispered softly, massaging his shoulders. "She's not well anymore, it's dangerous. Today it was a glass of wine. Tomorrow she could set the house on fire with you inside or hurt a child." "I don't know what to do, Genevieve. The carers don't last." "Sarah is getting old," Liam said, defeated. Genevieve sat across from him and took his hands, looking at him with a predatory intensity disguised as sacrifice. "I have a proposal, a gamble, if you want to see it that way. Dismiss the external carers. They don't care about her. They only want your money." I'll take care of her. You? Liam looked at her in surprise. But you have your social life, your travels. I'll give it all up for you, Liam, and for her. I'll personally take charge of her medication, her food, and her routine. I bet you anything that in a month under my care, she'll be better and calmer. But you have to give me total control. No interference from Sarah. No strangers in the house. Just her and me. Trust me. Liam looked at her, moved to tears by such a display of selfless love. Would you do that for us? He asked. I would do anything to be the wife you deserve, Genevieve replied and gave him a tender kiss. Liam accepted. He gave her access to exclusive accounts for medical expenses and ordered the staff to obey Genevieve in everything concerning his mother. You're a saint, Genevieve, Liam said before going upstairs to sleep. Genevieve smiled as she watched Liam ascend the stairs. When she was alone in the immense living room, she took out her cell phone and dialed a number. He fell for it, she said, changing her sweet voice to a dry, mocking tone. I have total control of the old woman and the house. Prepare the notary papers. As soon as I get her declared incompetent, we'll send her to the public care home and sell this estate. I'm going to be a millionaire. And I won't even have to marry that imbecile Liam. What Genevieve didn't know was that Sarah, hidden behind the kitchen door, had heard the end of that call, but Sarah was just a domestic employee against the future lady of the house. Who would believe her? The nightmare for Eleanor was just beginning, the false saint. The morning Liam was to depart for London, the sun streamed radiantly through the mansion's windows, illuminating a scene that seemed straight out of a perfect movie. Genevieve had risen before anyone. With an immaculate white linen apron over her designer dress, she personally prepared breakfast for Eleanor and Liam. The aroma of freshly brewed coffee and baked bread filled the kitchen, disguising the scent of lies that would soon permeate every corner of the house. Liam descended the stairs, adjusting his gold watch, his mind already set on the corporate merger that would define his future. He was nervous, but seeing Genevieve patiently spoon-feeding his mother oatmeal, he felt his chest fill with peace. Look who's awake, my love, Genevieve said with a melodious voice, gently wiping the corner of Eleanor's lips. Your mom woke up wonderfully today. She recognized me, didn't she, mother-in-law? I was telling her you're going away for a few days to bring us many presents. Eleanor looked at her son with eyes clouded by forgetfulness, but they sparkled for an instant. Lee, the old woman whispered, extending a trembling hand. Are you going to school now? Liam smiled sadly and tenderly, leaning down to kiss her forehead. Not to school, Mom, to work. I have to go far so you don't lack anything, so you can continue to be the queen of this house. Genevieve stood up and wrapped her arms around Liam's neck, sighing. Go peacefully, my love. I'll take care of everything. I've already cancelled my spa appointments, my meetings with friends, and even my dress fitting. These 15 days are just for her and me. We'll be the best of friends. I'll read her favorite stories. I'll take her out into the garden to sunbathe, and I promise you that when you return, you'll find her more lucid and happier than ever. Liam, moved, took a black leather folder and a platinum credit card from his briefcase. Genevieve, I have no words. You are the best thing that has ever happened to me. Here is the card for unlimited emergency expenses, and I've signed the medical authorization in case we need to call a specialist. Anything my mother needs, whatever it is, buy it. Don't spare any expense. Genevieve took the card with agile fingers, slipping it into her pocket with a feline quickness that Liam, in his haste and infatuation, didn't notice. Don't worry about the money, darling. The important thing is that she's well. But go now, or you'll miss your flight. At that moment, Sarah entered the kitchen with a basket of clean laundry. She stopped dead when she saw the scene. Her instinct screamed that something was wrong. She had seen how Genevieve looked at Eleanor when Liam wasn't around with disgust, as if she were an old piece of furniture in the way. Mr. O'Connell. Sarah intervened with a firm but respectful voice. Are you sure you don't want me to stay overnight these days? Eleanor is used to me saying the rosary with her before bed. Genevieve immediately interrupted with a soft but cutting laugh. Oh, Sarah, always so selfless. But it's not necessary. Liam and I talked about it. You need to rest, woman. Besides, I think it does my mother-in-law good to have a change of scenery, to stop seeing the same long faces all the time. I'll take care of it. You just come during your cleaning hours and nothing more, right, darling? Liam nodded, agreeing with his fiancée. Listen to her, Sarah. Genevieve is in control. I trust her completely. Sarah lowered her head, biting her tongue. She knew that if she insisted, she would seem like a jealous or problematic employee. Yes, sir, may God be with you, Sarah murmured, feeling a knot in her stomach. Liam embraced his mother one last time. Eleanor clung to his jacket as if she sensed the coming storm. "Don't go, son. It's very cold here," the old woman said, even though the thermostat showed a perfect temperature. "I'll be back, Mom. I love you," Liam said, gently releasing her. Genevieve accompanied him to the front door. As the chauffeur loaded the suitcases into the armored car, Genevieve kissed Liam passionately, ensuring he left with the image of the perfect woman imprinted in his mind. "Call me when you land. We love you," she said, waving as the car drove away down the long gravel driveway. Genevieve stood on the porch, smiling and waving until the car disappeared behind the large wrought iron gates. She maintained the smile for 2 more seconds, just in case. Then, she slowly lowered her hand. Her posture relaxed. The sweet smile vanished like smoke, replaced by a grimace of boredom and absolute contempt. She turned towards the house, closing the heavy wooden door with a dry thud and locking it. The metallic sound echoed through the vestibule like the closing of a cell. Finally, she whispered to herself, "The charade is over. The hidden abuse." The silence that followed the slamming door was sepulchral. Genevieve walked back to the kitchen, but her steps were no longer delicate. She clacked her heels forcefully, marking her territory. She entered the kitchen where Eleanor was still sitting in front of her bowl of oatmeal, playing with the spoon, and Sarah was nervously washing dishes. Genevieve stood in front of the old woman. She looked down at her with crossed arms, observing a drop of oatmeal fall onto the embroidered tablecloth. "Enough!" Genevieve shouted, slamming her hand on the table, making the cutlery jump. Eleanor flinched, dropping the spoon in fright. She cowered in her chair, covering her face with her hands like a small child. "Miss Genevieve," Sarah exclaimed, drying her hands and running towards her employer. "You'll scare her." "What's wrong?" Genevieve turned to Sarah with a chilling look. "What's wrong is that I'm sick of pretending I can stand the old woman's smell in this house. Listen to me carefully, you insolent help, because I won't repeat myself. From this second on, the rules change. Liam isn't here. I'm in charge, and I won't allow this decrepit old woman to continue living like a queen while I have to clean her drool." Genevieve grabbed Eleanor's oatmeal bowl and, with a sudden movement, threw it into the sink. The sound of breaking porcelain made Eleanor whimper. "But the lady hasn't finished breakfast," Sarah stammered. "She's eaten enough. Look how fat she is. From today on, no more whims. No imported oatmeal, no exotic fruits, just rice and beans, if she behaves." Genevieve approached Eleanor and grabbed her arm forcefully, digging her long manicured nails into the old woman's thin, wrinkled skin. "Get up," Genevieve ordered. "It hurts. It hurts." Eleanor whimpered, trying to pull away, but Genevieve was much stronger. "Let her go," Sarah cried, trying to intervene, but Genevieve stopped her with a paralyzing threat. "If you take one more step, I swear on my life I'll call the police and say you stole Liam's diamond watch. I have it in my bag, ready to appear in your locker. Do you want to go to jail, Sarah? Who will take care of your sick grandson if you're behind bars?" Sarah froze. Fear for her family was stronger than her courage. She backed away with tears of helplessness in her eyes. Genevieve smiled victoriously and dragged Eleanor out of the kitchen. She didn't take her to her downstairs guest room. She took her upstairs to the end of the hallway, where the old sewing room now served as a storage closet. "Please, I want my Lee," Eleanor cried, tripping over her own feet. "Shut up. Lee can't hear you. Lee is flying first class, forgetting you exist. Now you live in my world." They entered Eleanor's master bedroom. Genevieve opened the wardrobe and began pulling out silk dresses, fine wool coats, and cashmere scarves. Furiously, she threw them to the floor. "All this is trash, too good for a crazy woman who pees herself." She searched a drawer and pulled out an old, worn gray robe that a cleaning lady had once worn years ago. "Take that off," Genevieve ordered, pointing to the elegant dress Eleanor was wearing. The old woman, trembling with humiliation and cold, didn't move fast enough. Genevieve, exasperated, began to undress her with tugs, not caring if she tore the fabric or hurt her skin. She left her in her underwear for a moment, exposing her fragility, before throwing the old robe over her. "Get dressed, and you better not soil anything." Then Genevieve did something that would mark the beginning of true hell. She took the jewelry Eleanor kept on her nightstand, the pearl necklace her deceased husband had given her, the gold rings, the locket with a photo of Liam as a child. "No, that's not from my Robert," Eleanor pleaded, reaching out her hand. Genevieve put on the pearl necklace in front of the mirror, admiring herself. "They're mine now. Anyway, you don't even remember who Robert was anymore. Crazy old women don't need jewelry, they need discipline." Genevieve dragged Eleanor out of the master bedroom and pushed her towards the staff bathroom. That damp, forgotten room at the end of the hallway that had been undergoing renovation for months. The walls were peeling, the floor had plaster dust, and there was only an old toilet and a stained sink. "This will be your new presidential suite during the day," Genevieve said with sarcasm. "Here you don't bother anyone, here you don't get in the way. And if you need to use the bathroom, there it is. I don't want to see you wandering my hallways." Eleanor looked around, terrified by the darkness and filth. She saw a box of crayons and some old papers someone had left there in a corner. Can I draw?" she asked in a small child's voice, seeking some comfort amidst the nightmare. Genevieve let out a cruel laugh. "Draw whatever you want. Draw a door to escape, see if it works. But if I hear a single scream, a single cry, you go without dinner." Genevieve closed the bathroom door, but didn't lock it yet. She turned to Sarah, who had watched the scene from afar, crying silently. "And you," Genevieve said, pointing at the employee. "You better start cleaning the house from top to bottom. I want everything sparkling for my parties, because now that the cat's away, the mice will play, and if you give the old woman anything to eat without my permission, you'll regret it." Genevieve walked away, heels clacking, towards the master bedroom, Liam's, to take possession of the large bed, leaving behind a shattered mother in a dirty bathroom, and an honest employee whose hands were tied by fear and injustice. Hell had just opened its doors in the O'Connell estate. The first suspicion. 3 days had passed since Liam left. 3 days during which the O'Connell estate, once a place of order and respect, had transformed into a silent nightmare. Sarah arrived early that morning with a heavy heart. Genevieve had forbidden her from coming the day before, under the pretext that she wanted privacy to connect with her mother-in-law, but Sarah knew that look. It was the look of someone hiding something rotten. Upon entering the kitchen, the first thing she noticed was the mess. Empty champagne bottles on the granite island, glasses with blood-red lipstick marks, and remnants of expensive canapés scattered on the floor. There had been a party while the owner of the house worked on the other side of the world and his sick mother supposedly rested. Sarah put down her bag and ran upstairs, ignoring the pain in her own knees. The silence on the upper floor was dense, heavy. "Eleanor?" Sarah whispered, gently pushing open the master bedroom door. It was empty. The large bed was unmade, but it smelled of Genevieve's perfume, not the lavender Eleanor used. Panic seized Sarah. She ran to the staff room, that small windowless space where Genevieve had threatened to confine her. The door was closed, but not locked. Opening it, the sight that met her eyes broke her heart. Eleanor was huddled in an old cot, covered only with a thin sheet. She was trembling violently. She wasn't wearing her silk nightgown, but an old stained t-shirt that was too big for her. "My dear, Holy Virgin," Sarah exclaimed, rushing to her and kneeling beside the cot. The old woman opened her eyes, wide with fear, and covered her face with her arms as if expecting a blow. "No, don't hit me. I ate everything." "Don't hit me," Eleanor whimpered, her voice hoarse from crying. Sarah felt tears burning her eyes. She stroked Eleanor's messy, dirty hair. "It's me, my queen. It's Sarah. No one will hit you." As she tried to lift her to hug her, Eleanor let out a sharp cry of pain when Sarah touched her right arm. "Oh, it hurts," the old woman cried. Sarah, her pulse racing, carefully rolled up the sleeve of the old t-shirt. What she saw chilled her to the bone. 3 perfect dark purple finger marks, brutally imprinted on the old woman's fragile skin. It wasn't a bruise from a fall, they were grip marks. Someone had shaken her with excessive force. "Who did this to you?" Sarah asked, though she already knew the answer. "The pretty lady, the one who screams," Eleanor whispered, looking towards the door in terror. "She says I'm bad. She says I soiled her rug. She locked me in here because I peed myself." "I was scared, Sarah. It was dark." Indignation coursed through Sarah's body like liquid fire. She looked up and noticed something else. On the bedside table, there was no usual glass of water, nor the blood pressure medication. Instead, there was a plate with cold food scraps, something that looked more like dog food than for a person. Sarah took out a tissue and began to clean the old woman's face, also noticing a scratch on her cheek, cleverly covered with a bit of cheap makeup, as if someone had tried to quickly hide it. "This isn't going to stand," Sarah muttered through clenched teeth. "Mr. O'Connell has to know." Just then, the shadow of an elegant figure darkened the doorway. Sarah whirled around. Genevieve was there, leaning against the frame, impeccable in her silk robe, holding a steaming cup of coffee, and observing the scene with a chilling coldness. "What are you doing here so early, Sarah?" Genevieve asked, without a hint of guilt in her voice. "I told you to come after noon." Sarah stood up, confronting her for the first time with real anger. What happened to her arm? Sarah asked, pointing to the bruises. And why is she sleeping in this dirty room? Mr. O'Connell left precise instructions. Genevieve let out a dry chuckle, blowing into the room slowly like a cobra approaching its prey. Oh, Sarah, always so dramatic. She fell. Yesterday, she had one of her crazy episodes. She started running down the stairs, screaming that the house was on fire. I had to grab her hard so she wouldn't kill herself. You should thank me. I saved her life. Those bruises are the price of her safety. And the scratch on her face? Sarah insisted, not believing a word. She did it herself with her own nails while she was sleeping. She's very agitated. That's why I brought her here. This room is safer. There's no furniture she can hurt herself with. It's for her own good. Genevieve approached Eleanor, who, seeing her, began to tremble again and hid behind Sarah, clutching her skirt. That instinctive gesture of pure terror belied any of Genevieve's excuses. A mother does not fear her savior. She fears her tormentor. Sarah looked Genevieve in the eyes. I'm going to call the doctor, Sarah said firmly. Those marks look bad, and I'm going to call Mr. O'Connell to tell him his mother fell. Genevieve's smile vanished instantly. Her eyes narrowed. She took a step towards Sarah, invading her personal space, and her voice dropped to that dangerous whisper she used when no one else was listening. You're not calling anyone, you idiot, because if you do, you're the one who's going to be in trouble. Do you think Liam will believe you, an old servant, over his future wife? Sarah held her gaze, but fear began to seep in. The truth always comes out, madam. The truth is what I say it is, Genevieve declared. Now get out of here and go make me breakfast, and you better give this stinky old woman a bath and put long-sleeved clothes on her. I don't want to see those bruises when my friends come for tea. Move it. Sarah left the room, trembling with rage and helplessness, leaving Eleanor crying silently. She knew she had to act fast, but she had no proof. She only had the word of an old woman with Alzheimer's against that of a seasoned actress. But as she descended the stairs, Sarah made a decision. She wasn't going to let that woman kill Eleanor. She had to get proof. The bought silence. Sarah spent the morning in a state of total nervousness. As she cleaned the living room, her mind worked at 1,000 miles an hour. She had hidden her old cell phone in her apron pocket, determined to take a photo of Eleanor's bruises as soon as she had a moment alone with her. Genevieve, meanwhile, strolled through the house, talking on the phone with her friends, laughing, and organizing a brunch for the next day. She seemed to have forgotten the morning's confrontation, or perhaps she simply didn't care because she felt untouchable. Taking advantage of Genevieve being on the terrace sunbathing, Sarah stealthily went upstairs, entered the staff room, where Eleanor was still sitting on the cot, staring into space. Eleanor, my dear, don't move, Sarah whispered, pulling out her cell phone with trembling hands. I'm going to take a picture of your little arm so Lee can see what they did to you. Sarah lifted the old woman's sleeve and focused the camera. The bruises looked even darker under the artificial light. Click. She took a photo, then another of the scratch on her face. Click. There, Sarah said, feeling a momentary relief. With this, Mr. O'Connell will come flying back. She turned to leave, but bumped straight into a wall of wine-colored silk. Genevieve was standing at the door. She made no sound when she walked. She had been observing everything. Her face showed no anger, but a terrifying calm, a perverse satisfaction. Give me the phone, Genevieve said, extending her hand with an open palm. Sarah recoiled, pressing the cell phone against her chest. It's not my phone. Genevieve closed the door behind her with a soft thud. The sound of the lock made the air in the room unbreathable. I won't ask you twice, Sarah. Give it to me, or I swear I'll have you arrested right now for theft. I haven't stolen anything, Sarah cried, summoning her courage. Oh no? Genevieve reached into her robe pocket and pulled out a solid gold watch, a Rolex that belonged to Liam. How curious, because I just found this in your bag downstairs in the kitchen. Sarah's eyes widened in horror. You put it there. You're a viper. Genevieve smiled and threw the watch onto the cot beside the frightened Eleanor. Then she walked towards Sarah and, with a quick, violent movement, snatched the cell phone from her hands. Sarah tried to get it back, but Genevieve pushed her against the wall with surprising force. Genevieve unlocked the phone, it had no password, and slowly deleted the photos, savoring the moment. Then she looked at Sarah with contempt. You're pathetic. Did you think you could beat me? I am the future of this family. You are disposable. Sarah sank to the floor, crying in frustration. Why are you so cruel? She hasn't done anything to you. She's a defenseless old woman. Genevieve crouched down to Sarah's level. Her expression changed. She was no longer the telenovela villain. Now she was a cold, calculating businesswoman. She pulled a thick, bulging envelope from her other pocket. Listen carefully, Sarah. I know everything about you. I know your grandson, little Leo, needs a heart operation that costs a fortune. I know your daughter is desperate and that the healthcare system isn't giving them a date. Sarah looked up, chilled to the bone. Don't bring my family into this. Genevieve opened the envelope and revealed a wad of dollar bills. It was thousands, more than Sarah would earn in 5 years of work. Here's $10,000, Sarah, in cash, no questions asked. Enough to pay the down payment for your grandson's surgery at a private clinic tomorrow. Sarah looked at the money. It was her grandson's salvation, the life of an innocent child. What do you want in return? Sarah asked in a broken voice. Silence, Genevieve whispered, placing the envelope in the employee's trembling hands. I want you to shut your mouth. I want you to stop playing detective. You'll continue working here. You'll clean. And if you see Eleanor has a bruise, you'll say she fell. If you see she's locked up, you'll say it's for her safety. Genevieve stood up and smoothed her robe. If you accept the money, your grandson lives. If you don't accept it, well, not only will you lose your job and go to jail for stealing Liam's watch, but I'll personally make sure no rich family in Canada ever hires you again. Your grandson will die waiting on the public list, and it will be your fault. Sarah looked at the money in her hands. Then she looked at Eleanor, who watched her with pleading eyes from the cot. The weight of the decision was unbearable. It was the life of her own flesh and blood against loyalty to a woman who had been good to her. Take it, Genevieve ordered. Be smart. Old people die anyway, Sarah. Children have a future. Sarah clutched the envelope tightly, feeling the paper burn her skin. She lowered her head, defeated by misery and love for her family. Okay, she whispered, feeling something break inside her. Okay, I won't say anything. Genevieve smiled triumphantly. She condescendingly patted Sarah's head as if she were an obedient pet. I knew you were smart. Now wipe those tears, pick up that watch, and put it back. And remember, I'm watching you. One false step, one call to Liam, and I'll destroy you. Genevieve left the room, leaving the door open. Sarah remained on the floor, clutching the dirty money, while Eleanor began to cry again, instinctively feeling that her only ally had just been neutralized. Forgive me, Eleanor, forgive me, please, Sarah sobbed, clutching the money with guilt. It's for Leo, it's for my boy. But as she cried, a spark of fury ignited deep in her heart. She had accepted the money, yes, but Genevieve had made a mistake. She had underestimated what a grandmother is willing to do. Sarah would not give up so easily. The money would save her grandson, but her conscience demanded she save Eleanor. The game had just begun, and now Sarah had to be more cunning than the devil herself. The secret investigation. The kitchen was in shadow. It was 3 a.m., and the O'Connell estate slept under a deceptive silence. Sarah hadn't been able to sleep a wink. Sitting on a stool, she looked with disgust at the envelope full of bills Genevieve had given her, $10,000. Her grandson Leo's heart operation was the price of her silence, the price of selling her soul to the devil. But Sarah, as she caressed a picture of the Virgin Mary she kept in her pocket, made a decision. She would accept the money because a child's life is sacred, but she would not keep the deal. She would not let that woman destroy Eleanor. If Genevieve played dirty, she would have to play dirtier. The next day, Sarah arrived with a different attitude. She kept her head down, said yes, madam, to everything, and moved like a ghost through the house, cleaning with robotic efficiency. Genevieve, confident that the money had bought the employee's loyalty, lowered her guard. Sarah, bring me a green juice to the study, Genevieve shouted from the living room. And make sure the old woman doesn't make any noise. I have a video call with my club associates today. Right away, Miss Genevieve, Sarah replied in a submissive voice. As she prepared the juice, Sarah noticed something strange in the kitchen trash. Genevieve had thrown away several boxes of medication. Sarah, her heart racing, pulled out the boxes stained with coffee grounds. They were Eleanor's memory and circulation pills, very expensive medications imported from Germany that Liam had specifically ordered. They were almost full. Sarah searched the pantry and found what she feared. Generic sleeping pill bottles, strong sedatives sold without prescription in cheap pharmacies. Damn her, she's killing her slowly, Sarah whispered, putting the empty boxes in her shopping bag, wrapped in a napkin. That was the first piece of evidence. She went up to the staff room under the pretext of cleaning. Eleanor was awake, sitting on the cot, looking at her hands in confusion. Seeing Sarah, her eyes filled with tears. Sarah, I'm hungry. The pretty lady gave me a bitter pill, and now I feel dizzy, the old woman said, slurring her words. Don't worry, my dear. Look what I brought you. Sarah took a sweet muffin she had hidden from her apron. Eat it quickly before she comes. While Eleanor ate desperately, Sarah pulled an old cassette voice recorder from under the mattress that had belonged to the late Robert, Liam's father. She had found it in the attic while looking for old sheets. It was ancient, but it worked. "Eleanor, listen carefully," Sarah whispered, putting the recorder in the old woman's hands. "When that witch comes to shout at you, don't say anything. Just press this red button. Yes, it's a game, the spy game." Eleanor nodded, smiling innocently at the shiny device. "Spy game, yes, I like it," she murmured, hiding the recorder in the folds of her dirty robe. Later that day, Sarah was cleaning the windows of Liam's study. The door was ajar. Genevieve was inside, sitting at the mahogany desk that Liam respected so much, her feet propped up on company documents. She was talking on the phone, and her tone was the sweet one she used with her fiancé. Sarah pressed herself against the wall, holding her breath. She pulled out her own cell phone, an old one she used only for emergencies, and that Genevieve didn't know she had, and started recording audio, even though the quality would be poor from that distance. "Yes, of course he's an idiot," Genevieve said, laughing as she played with a silver letter opener. "He swallowed the whole perfect daughter-in-law story. He thinks I'm taking care of his mother as if she were the Virgin Mary. You have no idea, Mark. It's pathetic." There was a pause. Genevieve listened to her caller. "No, I'm not waiting for the wedding. That takes too long. The plan is different. I've already got the notary. He's coming tomorrow to certify the signature. The old woman doesn't even know her own name anymore. It'll be a piece of cake. Once the house is in my name, I'll send her to that provincial facility where they freeze to death. And I'll tell Liam she escaped and got lost. He'll cry for a couple of weeks, and then I'll console him in the Bahamas with his own money." Sarah felt her legs give way. It wasn't just abuse. It was massive theft and a plan to make Eleanor disappear. Genevieve planned to keep the estate, a property worth millions, by forging the original owner's signature. Just then, the wooden floorboards creaked under Sarah's feet. The silence in the study was immediate. "Is anyone there?" Genevieve asked in a sharp voice. Sarah put her cell phone in her bra at lightning speed, grabbed the rag and window cleaner, and entered the study, vigorously rubbing the doorframe with exaggerated force. "Excuse me, Miss Genevieve. It's me. I was cleaning the doorknobs as you asked," Sarah said, without looking up, praying her trembling wouldn't be noticed. Genevieve looked at her with suspicion, scanning her up and down. She hung up the phone without saying goodbye. "I didn't hear you come in, Sarah. You move like rats." "It's because I wear rubber shoes, madam, so I don't scratch the floor," Sarah improvised. Genevieve stood up, walked towards her, and lifted her chin with a finger, forcing her to look her in the eyes. "I hope that's true, because remember, our deal. Your grandson already has a surgery date, right? It would be a shame if the check bounced or if someone called the hospital to cancel the anonymous donation." "I haven't heard anything, madam, I just clean," Sarah replied, swallowing hard. "Good. Get out of here and prepare dinner. An important guest is coming tonight, a lawyer. I want the house impeccable, and the old woman deeply asleep. Give her a double dose of the blue pills. If she wakes up and screams, I'll kill you." Sarah nodded and ran towards the kitchen. She had the recording on her cell phone, but it was blurry and echoed. She needed more. She needed to catch her in the act, and that night, with the lawyer's visit, would be her only chance. The macabre plan. Night fell over the city like a funeral shroud. Rain lashed against the mansion's windows, creating an oppressive atmosphere. At 8 o'clock sharp, the doorbell rang. Sarah opened the door. A short, bald man in an ill-fitting gray suit entered, shaking a wet umbrella. He had weasel eyes and smelled of cheap tobacco mixed with expensive cologne. "Good evening, I'm Barrister Henderson. Miss Dubois is expecting me," the man said without looking at Sarah, treating her as if she were part of the furniture. "Please come in, Barrister. Miss Dubois is in the library," Sarah replied. Genevieve appeared, dressed in a very formal black pantsuit, but with the neckline unbuttoned enough to distract. "Barrister, how nice to see you. Please come in." "Sarah, bring coffee and brandy, then disappear. Go to your room and don't come out until tomorrow." Sarah served the drinks with trembling hands and withdrew, but not to her room. She took off her shoes to make no noise and slipped towards a small cleaning closet that was just behind the library's false wall. She knew there was an old ventilation grate connecting both rooms. If she pressed her ear to it, she could hear everything. From her hiding place among brooms and buckets, Sarah heard the clinking of glasses. "Here are the documents, Genevieve," the lawyer's raspy voice said. "The property rights transfer for the Forest Hill estate, the full power of attorney over the investment accounts, and the revocation of the previous will. All ready. Just one small thing, the signature. Genevieve completed with a malicious laugh. Don't worry, barrister. I've been practicing. Sarah heard the sound of papers rustling. It's risky, Genevieve, the lawyer warned. If Liam returns and hires a forensic handwriting expert. Liam is an infatuated idiot, Genevieve interrupted. When he comes back, his mother will already be admitted to the La Piedad Provincial Psychiatric Facility. I'll say she became violent, that she tried to kill me. With her Alzheimer's history, any judge will believe me, and when she's locked up and sedated, she'll die in a couple of months of natural causes. Pneumonia, probably. It's very cold in those places. Sarah covered her mouth to keep from screaming. The plan wasn't just to steal. It was to condemn Eleanor to a slow, lonely death in a public asylum, far from her son, surrounded by strangers, while Genevieve enjoyed her fortune. And the signature? The lawyer asked. We need it to look similar enough so the bank doesn't ask questions tomorrow. Bring the old woman, Genevieve ordered. I'm not forging it alone. I'm going to make her hold the pen herself. If her hand trembles, even better. They'll say it was due to her age. Sarah heard Genevieve's footsteps leaving the library and going upstairs to the staff room. Sarah's heart was pounding so hard she feared it would be heard through the wall. She had to do something. Seconds later, Eleanor's muffled screams and cries were heard as Genevieve dragged her downstairs. Let me go! I want my mom! The old woman cried, totally disoriented by the sedatives. Shut up and walk. You're gonna sign a little paper so I can give you a sweet, Genevieve said, in a falsely sweet voice that was more terrifying than her screams. They entered the library. Sit her down there, the lawyer said. Eleanor, good evening. I'm a friend of your son. We need your autograph here. From Lee? Eleanor asked hopefully. Is it for Lee? Yes, it's so Lee won't get angry, Genevieve said, putting a fountain pen in the old woman's arthritic hand. Sign here where the cross is. Write Eleanor MacDonald O'Connell. I can't. My hand is shaking, the old woman whimpered. I'll help you. Genevieve grabbed the old woman's hand with brute force, squeezing her fingers around the pen until her knuckles turned white. She began to forcibly move Eleanor's hand over the paper, tracing a scrawled signature. You're hurting me. I don't want to, Eleanor cried. Sign, you hag. Genevieve snarled, losing patience. The sound of paper tearing was clearly heard. There, Genevieve said, releasing the old woman's hand, which fell onto the table. Legible enough. Witnesses, you and I, barrister. Perfect, the lawyer said, putting the papers away. With this, tomorrow morning first thing, I'll transfer the house's title to the anonymous company we created in Panama. By noon, this house will no longer belong to the O'Connells. It will be yours. And the old woman goes to the asylum tomorrow, Genevieve declared. I've already arranged for the ambulance. I'll say she had a cerebral infarction and needs specialized care that we can't provide here. When Liam lands, everything will be done. Sarah in the closet felt like she was going to faint. Tomorrow, everything would happen tomorrow. She had no time. She had to get Eleanor out of there that very night, or they would lose everything. She came out of the closet with extreme care, but in her haste, her elbow hit a metal bucket. Clang! The sound echoed like a gunshot in the silence of the night. In the library, the voices suddenly ceased. What was that? The lawyer asked, alarmed. It came from the staff hallway, Genevieve said, with an icy voice. Stay here with the papers. Sarah ran towards the kitchen, trying to reach the back door, but she heard Genevieve's furious heels approaching at an inhuman speed. She wouldn't make it out. She hid behind the granite island, praying with her cell phone pressed against her chest, still recording. Genevieve entered the kitchen, flipping on the lights. Her eyes scanned the room like a predator. I know you're there, Sarah, Genevieve said, walking slowly towards the island. I know you didn't go to your room. You're like a cockroach that's hard to kill. Sarah closed her eyes, knowing she was cornered. Genevieve rounded the island and found her crouched on the floor. Genevieve's gaze wasn't angry. This time it was pure, murderous malice. I gave you a chance, you stupid woman, Genevieve said, taking a chef's knife from the wooden block on the table. I gave you money. I gave you a way out. But you wanted to play the heroine. Genevieve knelt down, the knife gleaming in her hand. The problem with heroines, Sarah, is that they always die at the end of the movie. Everything seemed lost. Sarah was alone, unarmed, and facing a woman willing to do anything for millions of dollars. And the only witness was an old woman who didn't remember her own name, asleep on a table in the next room. The trap had closed. The blade of the knife gleamed under the cold kitchen light, mere inches from Sarah's neck. Genevieve didn't tremble. Her hand was steady, sustained by adrenaline and pure malice. Sarah, cornered between the granite island and the wall, felt the air escape her lungs. She could smell Genevieve's expensive perfume, mixed with the metallic stench of fear. "You thought you could beat me, you insolent help?" Genevieve whispered, bringing the tip of the steel closer to the employee's throat. "With what? With an old phone and your word as a servant?" Sarah, with a desperate movement, tried to raise the cell phone to protect herself, but Genevieve was faster. With a sharp blow to the wrist, she sent the device flying. The phone hit the marble floor and slid to the feet of the lawyer, who watched the scene from the doorway with a mixture of horror and fascination. "Step on it," Genevieve ordered, still pointing the knife at Sarah. The lawyer hesitated for a second, but Genevieve's glare was enough. He raised his Italian leather shoe and stomped his heel forcefully onto the screen of the old cell phone. Crack! The sound of breaking glass was the sound of hope dying. "No, the truth was in there," Sarah cried, trying to lunge towards the shattered remains of the device. But Genevieve violently shoved her against the cabinets. "The truth is what I decided to be," Genevieve said, letting out a hysterical laugh. "And the truth tonight is very simple. A resentful domestic employee, caught stealing jewelry, attacked the lady of the house with a knife." Before Sarah could process the words, Genevieve did the unthinkable. She twisted the knife in her hand and, gritting her teeth, made a superficial but bleeding cut on her own left forearm. Blood spurted red and bright onto her black pantsuit. "Help! She wants to kill me!" Genevieve began to scream. An Oscar-worthy performance, throwing the knife at Sarah's feet. "Barrister, call security. This madwoman attacked me." Sarah looked at the knife on the floor, stained with Genevieve's blood, and then at her own empty hands. She understood with absolute terror that she had fallen into a perfect trap. Within minutes, the sirens of the neighborhood's private security illuminated the mansion's entrance with red and blue lights. 2 burly guards entered the kitchen with drawn weapons. "There she is," Genevieve pointed, crying inconsolably, while the lawyer bandaged her arm with a linen napkin. "That woman tried to stab me because I caught her stealing silver. Get her out of here before she hurts my mother-in-law." "It's a lie," Sarah cried as one of the guards pinned her to the floor, handcuffing her hands behind her back. "She's mistreating Eleanor. Check her. She has bruises. She forced me to accept money." "Shut up, thief," the lawyer intervened, showing his professional card to the guards. "I am the O'Connell family's legal representative. This woman is dangerous. Miss Dubois will not press criminal charges tonight to avoid a media scandal that would affect her fiancé's company, but she demands that you remove her from the property immediately." The head of security, seeing the suited lawyer and the injured lady of the house, did not hesitate for an instant. The word of the rich always counts for more than the truth of the poor. "Get her up," the guard ordered. "Let's go, madam, and be grateful we're not taking you to the station right now." Sarah was dragged out of the kitchen. As they roughly shoved her towards the service door, she turned her head one last time. She saw Genevieve standing, holding her bandaged arm with a triumphant, cruel smile on her lips. Behind her, in the gloom of the hallway, the small, trembling figure of Eleanor peeked out, hugging herself, watching in terror as her only defender was taken away. "Don't leave her alone, please," Sarah pleaded as they dragged her through the garden in the pouring rain. "They'll kill her, Mr. O'Connell." The service door slammed shut with a definitive thud. Sarah was thrown onto the wet street, without an umbrella, without her bag, without her phone, and without dignity. She fell to her knees on the cold asphalt, instantly soaked. The wrought iron electric gate slowly closed in front of her, sealing the mansion like an impenetrable fortress. Inside, Genevieve removed the makeshift bandage and looked at the cut on her arm. It burned, but it was worth it. "Clean the blood from the floor, barrister," Genevieve ordered, regaining her coldness. "And bring the session papers. We're going to finish this. Tomorrow morning, I want that old woman out of my sight and my name on the deeds." Eleanor, who had seen everything from the darkness, tried to run to her room, but Genevieve intercepted her in the hallway. "Where do you think you're going?" Genevieve asked, grabbing her nightgown. "The party's over. Sarah's gone. Now it's just you and me, and I assure you, Eleanor, you're going to wish you had died with your husband." Genevieve dragged the old woman towards the renovation bathroom, that dirty, dark place that had become her punishment cell. She pushed her inside and locked the door from the outside. "You stay there until the ambulance comes tomorrow. And if you scream, I swear I'll come in and give you a real reason to cry." Sarah, from the street, heard a muffled scream coming from the house. She got up, hitting the gate bars with her fists until her knuckles bled. "My God, help me!" she cried to the black sky. "Don't let this happen." She was alone, soaked, and defeated. But in that moment of absolute despair, she remembered something. George Thompson, the chauffeur, the man who had served the O'Connell family for 30 years and lived in a small cottage at the back of the property with a separate entrance through the alley. George had a satellite phone in the car for company emergencies. It was her only card, her last resort. Sarah wiped her tears with the torn sleeve of her uniform and ran through the storm, circling the block towards the back alley. She would not give up. That night, she would either save Eleanor or die trying. The last resort. The downpour raged over Toronto, turning the streets of Forest Hill into dark rivers. Sarah, shivering with cold and fear, reached the small back door of the garage. She pounded on the wood with a stone, again and again, desperate. "George! George! Wake up!" she cried, her voice hoarse. Eternal minutes passed. Sarah felt her heart would burst. Inside the main house, Eleanor's fate hung by a thread. Finally, the light in the chauffeur's cottage turned on. The door opened, and George appeared, an older man with a gray mustache, wearing pajamas and a frightened expression. "Sarah, what are you doing here at this hour? You're soaked, woman," he exclaimed, pulling her inside to protect her from the rain. "No time, George, no time," Sarah sobbed, falling to her knees on the dry floor. "Genevieve, that woman is." She threw Eleanor into the dirty bathroom. She hit her. She forged her signature. "She wants to sell the house and send her to an asylum tomorrow. She accused me of theft and they threw me out." George turned pale. He knew Genevieve. He had never liked her haughty look, but this was monstrous. "Are you sure of what you're saying, Sarah?" "Mr. O'Connell will kill us if it's a lie." "I swear on my grandson's life," Sarah cried, grabbing the chauffeur's calloused hands. "I need to talk to him." She broke my phone. "You have the car's satellite phone, right?" George nodded, his face hardening with determination. "Yes, Mr. O'Connell is in a meeting with the sheikhs in London right now. It's noon there. If we call, we'll interrupt a multi-million-dollar contract. His mother's life is worth more than those millions," Sarah implored. George ran to the garage, took the keys to the stored Bentley, and opened the glove compartment. He pulled out the satellite phone, a robust, black device. He dialed the direct emergency number, the one that should only be used if the company was burning down or if someone had died. Ring, ring, ring. On the other side of the world, in a glass conference room overlooking a towering skyscraper, Liam O'Connell stood shaking hands with an Arab sheikh. The contract was on the table, $50 million. His pale personal assistant entered the room with a vibrating phone. "Mr. O'Connell, it's the red line. It's George," Liam frowned. George never called. He excused himself to the sheikhs and took the phone, moving to a corner. "What's wrong, George?" "I'm signing." "It better be." "Boss, it's not George, it's Sarah." The woman's voice was broken, full of static and tears, but clear as a bell. "Forgive me, boss, forgive me. But if you don't come now, your mother won't see the morning." Liam felt an icy cold in his stomach. "Sarah, what are you saying?" "Genevieve told me everything was perfect." "It's a lie." Sarah's cry echoed in the luxurious London room. "She has her locked in the staff bathroom. She's hitting her, boss. She's force-feeding her sleeping pills. They forged her signature to steal the house. They threw me out because I discovered them. Come, for God's sake, come, or they'll kill her." The call was cut off. Liam remained petrified. The phone slipped from his hand and fell onto the Persian rug. He looked at the partners. He looked at the multi-million-dollar contract. In his mind, he saw his mother's face, the woman who had sacrificed everything for him. And then he saw Genevieve's perfect smile, a smile that now seemed like a mask of terror. "Mr. O'Connell, shall we sign?" the impatient sheikh asked. Liam turned around. His face had changed. He was no longer the businessman. He was a furious son. "The deal is off," Liam said with a voice of steel. "I need my jet ready in 10 minutes. We're going to Toronto now." As Liam rushed to the airport on the other side of the ocean, the scene in the mansion reached its most dramatic point. Genevieve, wine bottle in hand and completely drunk on power, kicked open the dirty bathroom door. "All right, you crazy old woman," she shouted, swaying. "Stop crying." The visual scene was heartbreaking, just as Sarah had imagined it, and as Liam would find her hours later, though at that moment, only Genevieve was witness to her own cruelty. The bathroom was in ruins, with peeling tiles and construction dust. Eleanor, her grey hair disheveled and her face dirty with tears and snot, was sitting on the old toilet seat. She wore the ragged grey dress Genevieve had forced her to wear. Her hands, trembling and deformed, were clasped in front of her chest in a gesture of supplication, as if praying to an executioner. On the filthy floor, scattered around her bare feet, were the colored crayons and several crumpled children's drawings. They were drawings of Liam, drawings of a happy home, drawings of a son that no longer shone for her. Genevieve leaned against the doorframe, her wine-colored silk dress violently contrasting with the misery of the surroundings. She crossed her arms, looking at her with disgust. Behind her, Barrister Henderson, his suit disheveled, watched the scene with a mixture of shock and concern, realizing that perhaps they had gone too far. "Please," Eleanor whispered, her voice broken. "I just want to go to my bed. I'm cold." "Your bed is no longer yours. This house is no longer yours," Genevieve spat. "Tomorrow you're going to a place where crazy people like you don't bother anyone, and I hope you rot there." Genevieve closed the door again, leaving Eleanor in total darkness. But what Genevieve didn't know, what her arrogance prevented her from seeing, was that Sarah hadn't left. Sarah had climbed the back fence with George's help, wet, dirty, and determined. She was now slipping through the garden towards the service bathroom window that overlooked the backyard. She took George's satellite phone, which had a camera. She peered through the high, broken little window of the bathroom, and there, under the dim light of a hanging bulb, she saw Eleanor praying. Sarah raised the phone, pressed record. "Hold on, my dear," Sarah whispered through tears, recording every second of the old woman's misery. "Hold on, your son is coming, and this time, she's going to pay." Liam's plane sliced through the sky at maximum speed. But the question was, would he arrive in time to save her, or only in time to avenge her? The night was long, and Genevieve's evil had not yet ended. The final proof. Liam O'Connell's private jet landed at a private air terminal near Toronto, cutting through the early morning fog. There were no slow customs or welcome protocols. Liam ran down the stairs, his face distraught, ignoring the pilot who tried to hand him his briefcase. On the tarmac, the family's armored car engine was already roaring. George Thompson was at the wheel, his eyes red from crying, but his hands firm on the steering wheel. "To the house, George. Drive like hell if you have to, but get there in 15 minutes. Liam ordered as he got in, slamming the door. The car shot off, devouring the wet asphalt of the highway towards Toronto. The silence inside the vehicle was sepulchral, broken only by Liam's agitated breathing. "Tell me she's alive, George. Tell me we're in time," Liam pleaded, loosening his tie as if he were suffocating. "She's alive, boss," George replied, swallowing hard. "But what you're about to see, you have to be strong, Mr. O'Connell. Sarah sent me the video on her phone 10 minutes ago. She's still hidden in the garden, watching the bathroom window. Show me," Liam demanded, extending his hand. George handed him the phone with the screen on. Liam pressed play. The image was dark and grainy, taken from outside through a dirty, broken window in the rain, but the audio and image were unmistakable. The interior of the staff bathroom under renovation was visible, a place Liam remembered ordering to be fixed months ago, and which now looked like a medieval dungeon. On the screen, his mother, Eleanor, was lying on the cold floor, hugging her knees, trembling uncontrollably. Her grey dress was stained. She looked like a cornered animal. Then, Genevieve's voice cut through the air in the recording. Her face wasn't visible at first, only her blood-red high heels stepping on the children's drawings Eleanor had made. "Stop praying, you stupid old woman!" Genevieve's voice was heard, clear and poisonous. "God doesn't hear you, and neither does your son. Tomorrow at this time you'll be in the provincial care home, tied to a bed with leather straps so you don't bother anyone, and I'll be toasting with champagne in your house, which is now mine." The camera trembled as if Sarah was sobbing while recording. In the video, Genevieve knelt down and grabbed Eleanor by her grey hair, forcing her to look at her. "Look closely. You lost. I won. Liam never loved you. He told me you were a burden, that he wished you would die soon to stop spending his money. That's why he left me in charge, so I could do the dirty work." "Liar," Eleanor cried in the video with a heartbreaking voice. "My Lee loves me." "Your Lee is mine," Genevieve laughed, releasing her with contempt so that the old woman's head gently hit the wall. "Go to sleep, or I swear I'll give you another double dose, and you'll never wake up." Liam turned off the phone. His hand trembled so much he almost dropped it. His eyes, once full of concern, were now bloodshot with cold, murderous fury. He didn't shout. He didn't hit the seat. He remained motionless, watching the rain hit the armored glass. "George," Liam said in a voice that seemed to come from beyond the grave. "Don't enter through the front. Go through the service gate. Turn off the lights before we get there. I want to walk in. I want to hear them before they see me." The car slid like a shadow through the mansion's back alley in Forest Hill. Sarah emerged from the bushes, soaked, her servant's uniform torn and mud on her face. Seeing Liam get out of the car, she threw herself at his feet, crying. "Forgive me, boss, I couldn't stop her," the woman sobbed. Liam lifted her from the ground and hugged her tightly, staining his Italian suit with mud without caring in the slightest. "You're the only family I have now, Sarah. You saved my mother. Stay here with George. I'm going in." Liam walked towards the house in the rain. The kitchen door was unlocked, just as Sarah had left it when she escaped. He entered. The house was silent, but there were lights on in the library and in the staff bathroom hallway. He walked on the Persian rugs that Genevieve guarded so carefully, leaving muddy, wet footprints with every step. He heard laughter coming from the library. He approached stealthily. The door was ajar. There was Genevieve, sitting in his father's leather armchair, a glass of brandy in her hand and her bare feet on the coffee table. Barrister Henderson was putting documents into his briefcase, sweating nervously. "Are you sure the signature will pass the bank's filters, Barrister?" Genevieve asked, laughing. The old woman's hand was very weak. "It's a decent forgery, Miss Dubois," the lawyer replied. "With the power of attorney I drafted, tomorrow at 9 a.m. the house is yours and the investment accounts will be emptied into your name. Liam won't be able to do anything legally. His mother sold everything to you before losing her mind." Genevieve toasted the air. "Perfect. Tomorrow at 8, the ambulance comes for her. I told the asylum director she's aggressive, so they'll sedate her as soon as she arrives. In a couple of weeks, an accidental pneumonia will solve the problem of upkeep. And when Liam returns, I'll be the comforting fiancé who helps him get over his grief. I'm a genius." Liam had heard enough. He felt bile rise in his throat. It wasn't just ambition. It was pure psychopathic evil. He took out his personal phone and quickly dialed a number. "Detective, I'm inside. Proceed," he whispered. Then he put the phone away and walked towards the bathroom hallway. He didn't confront Genevieve yet. First, he had to see his mother. He reached the door of the renovation bathroom. It was closed with an improvised external padlock. Liam, with the strength of desperation, looked for a metal bar from the construction tools scattered in the hallway. He hit the padlock once, twice. The noise echoed through the house like a cannon shot. "What was that?" Genevieve's sharp cry was heard from the library. Liam broke the lock and opened the door. The smell of dampness and urine hit him, and there, in the gloom, illuminated by the hallway light, he saw his mother. Eleanor looked up, covering her face with her arms, terrified. "No, don't hit me. I've already shut up," the old woman whispered. Liam fell to his knees, the most powerful construction mogul in Canada, crying like a child. "Mom, it's me. It's Lee." Eleanor slowly lowered her arms. Her clouded eyes focused on him. "Lee?" she asked doubtfully. "Did you come from school?" "Yes, Mom, I came for you. No one will ever hurt you again. I swear on my life." He hugged her, and feeling her fragile bones and seeing the bruises on her arms in the light, Liam felt his soul break in two and reassemble, but this time armored with iron. Hurried footsteps sounded in the hallway. "Sarah, you lowly help! I told you to get out!" Genevieve screamed, running towards the bathroom with the lawyer behind her. "If you come in here again, I'm calling the police!" And Genevieve stopped dead in the doorway. The man who was kneeling on the dirty floor, hugging the old woman, slowly stood up. He turned. It wasn't Sarah. It was Liam. But it wasn't the infatuated, docile Liam she knew. His face was bathed in tears, but his eyes were two dark pits of absolute hatred. His suit was wet, dirty with mud, and in his right hand, he clutched the metal bar so tightly that his knuckles were white. Genevieve paled to the color of a corpse. The brandy glass slipped from her hand and shattered on the floor. "Liam," she whispered, her voice strangled. "My love, what are you doing here? I can explain it. She went crazy. She attacked me." Liam took a step towards her. Barrister Henderson, seeing the imminent catastrophe, tried to back away to flee, but bumped into the wall. The final proof was no longer necessary. Genevieve's terrified face was the clearest confession in the world. The downfall, the silence in the hallway was so dense it could be cut with a knife. Genevieve tried to regain her composure, smoothing her hair with trembling hands, trying to invoke her best performance. "Thank God you arrived, Liam," she began, trying to cry. "It's been hell. Your mother completely lost her mind. Look at her. She threw herself on the floor, soiled herself on purpose. She tried to hit me. I had to lock her up for her own good until the doctor came. Sarah robbed me and fled. I was so scared." Genevieve took a step towards him, arms open, expecting to be embraced. "Don't come near me," Liam said. His voice wasn't a shout. It was a guttural, low, vibrating whisper, much more terrifying than any scream. "If you take one more step, Genevieve, I'll forget I'm a gentleman." Genevieve froze. She had never heard that tone from him. Liam turned to the lawyer, who was trying to slide towards the kitchen exit. "Barrister Henderson, if you move one more inch, I swear I'll make sure you never practice law again, not even to defend traffic tickets. Stay right there." Then Liam looked at Genevieve again. He looked her up and down with deep disgust, as if he were looking at a cockroach on his food. "For her own good," Liam repeated, pointing to the filthy bathroom where his mother was still sitting on the floor, watching the scene confused. "Locking her in a bathroom under construction is for her own good. Taking away her medication is for her own good. Forging her signature to sell my house is for her own good." Genevieve's eyes widened disproportionately. "What are you talking about?" "I didn't, that's a lie!" "Shut up!" Liam roared, and the scream made the walls tremble. Genevieve recoiled, bumping into the door frame. "I heard everything, Genevieve. I heard you toasting with this parasite. I saw the video where you tell my mother to die. I saw how you hit her." Liam pulled George's phone from his pocket and held it up. "Sarah recorded everything, every insult, every blow, every second of your torture." Genevieve looked at the phone and knew the game was over. The mask of the sweet fiancée melted, revealing her true face, hard, cynical, and desperate. "And what are you going to do?" Genevieve spat, changing her tone to an aggressive one. "Are you going to hit a woman? Try it, and I'll sue you for everything you own. Besides, that old woman doesn't even know who she is anymore. She's a nuisance, Liam. I did you a favor. I was going to rid you of the burden so we could be happy." "Happy?" Liam let out a dry, bitter laugh. "You've never been happy, Genevieve. You're a black hole that devours everything it touches. And about my money?" Liam walked towards her. Genevieve backed away until she was cornered against the hallway wall. "That dress you're wearing," Liam said, grabbing the fine silk fabric of Genevieve's shoulder. "I paid for it. Those diamond earrings." He ripped an earring off with a rough movement, making Genevieve cry out in pain. "My mother paid for them with 40 years of washing other people's clothes." "You're hurting me. You're an animal," Genevieve cried. "No, Genevieve. An animal is someone who abuses those who cannot defend themselves. I am only recovering what is mine." At that moment, blue and red lights flooded the living room windows. Police sirens sounded at the main entrance. George had opened the large gate. "Do you hear that?" Liam asked. "I didn't call private security. I called the Crown Prosecution Service. I have very powerful friends, Genevieve, friends who hate fraudsters." 4 judicial police officers entered the hallway with their weapons drawn, followed by Sarah, who now walked with her head held high. "Mr. O'Connell," said the detective inspector in charge. "Are these them?" "Yes, detective," Liam said, pointing to Genevieve and the lawyer. "Attempted murder, kidnapping, document forgery, aggravated fraud, abuse of a vulnerable person, and assault. I want them to rot in prison." Barrister Henderson immediately raised his hands. "I was just following orders. She forced me." "It was Miss Dubois' idea," the coward cried, trying to save himself. "You damned traitor." Genevieve shrieked, lunging at the lawyer to scratch his face. The police separated them and handcuffed them. Genevieve struggled, screaming like a madwoman, losing all elegance. "Let me go! You don't know who I am! Liam, tell them to stop! I love you! I did everything for us!" she cried, alternating between threats and pathetic pleas. Liam approached her one last time while an officer held her. He looked her in the eyes, inches away. "You don't love me, Genevieve. You love my money, and I have bad news for you. I just canceled all additional cards, and your apartment in Yorkville, the one I put in your name. I just remembered that the papers aren't notarized yet. You're on the street. You have nothing, absolutely nothing. You'll regret this, Liam. You're a mommy's boy, a loser." Genevieve yelled as they dragged her towards the exit, her makeup smeared and her dress torn. Liam watched her go, feeling nothing but immense relief, as if a malignant tumor had been removed. He turned towards the bathroom. Sarah was already inside, helping Eleanor up, gently wiping her face and covering her with a warm blanket she had brought. "It's over, my dear, it's over." "The witch is gone," Sarah said, crying and laughing at the same time. Liam entered the bathroom and carried his mother in his arms, as if she were a feather. He took her out of that filthy place and carried her towards the living room, away from the dirt, away from the painful memories. "Forgive me, Mom," Liam whispered against his mother's dirty hair. "Forgive me for not seeing the truth." Eleanor, feeling her son's warmth and familiar scent, rested her head on his shoulder. For a moment, the fog of Alzheimer's dissipated. "Lee," she said softly, "don't cry, my son. You took out the trash. Now the house is clean." Liam closed his eyes, letting the tears flow freely. The nightmare was over. Justice had arrived with the force of a hurricane, sweeping everything in its path. But the reconstruction was just beginning. The redemption and final judgment. 3 months had passed since that stormy night of revelations. The Forest Hill mansion no longer smelled of dampness, or fear, or Genevieve's cloying perfume. Now it smelled of fresh flowers, wood wax, and homemade stew. Liam O'Connell, the man who used to live glued to his cell phone, closing multi-million-dollar deals, was sitting in the backyard, not wearing a suit, but comfortable linen pants and a rolled-up shirt. He was kneeling on the grass, but not to ask for forgiveness this time, but to play. In front of him, sitting in a cushioned wicker chair and covered with a hand-knitted blanket, was Eleanor. She was no longer the dirty, terrified old woman from the bathroom. Her white hair was clean, styled in a soft braid with a blue ribbon. Her skin, hydrated and cared for, had regained its color. "Look, Lee," Eleanor said, pointing to a sheet of professional drawing paper on her lap. "I drew a son, but this son has a mustache like you." Liam let out a genuine laugh, a laugh that came from his stomach and cleansed his soul. "It's beautiful, Mom. It's the best portrait anyone has ever done of me. I'm going to frame it and put it in my office, right where I used to have my Harvard diploma." Sarah appeared from the kitchen, carrying a tray with fresh lemonade and walnut cookies. She no longer wore the gray servant's uniform. She wore a pretty, dignified floral dress and new orthopedic shoes that Liam had insisted she buy for her tired knees. "Mr. O'Connell, the Crown Prosecution Service is calling," Sarah said, placing the tray on the garden table. "They say the sentence has been delivered." Liam's face grew serious, but not tense. It was the seriousness of one who knows he has fulfilled his duty. He stood up, wiped his hands, and took the phone. "Yes, barrister?" Liam asked. On the other end of the line, the prosecutor's voice was clear and forceful. "It's over, Mr. O'Connell." The judge showed no mercy. Miss Jenkins' videos and the forensic doctor's testimony were irrefutable. Genevieve Dubois has been sentenced to 25 years in prison, without bail, for attempted murder, aggravated fraud, document forgery, and abuse of a vulnerable person, and Barrister Henderson received 15 years for complicity and professional misconduct. They are already being transferred to the correctional facility. Liam felt a 1,000-ton weight lift from his shoulders. "Thank you, prosecutor. Make sure they don't have any privileges, that they eat the same as everyone else, that they sleep on the same cots, that they learn what true humility is." He hung up the phone and looked towards the horizon. Far away, in a cold gray cell, Genevieve's reality was very different from her dreams of grandeur. There were no more silk dresses or jewels. She wore a rough beige uniform that irritated her skin. Her hair, once her pride, was dull and pulled back in a messy ponytail. Without makeup, the lines of bitterness on her face were deep. She was sitting on the edge of a metal bunk, surrounded by 4 other inmates who looked at her with distrust. "Hey, princess!" a burly woman shouted from the top bunk. "There are no servants here. If you want water, you get up and go to the sink. And be careful how you look at me. Your money is worth nothing here." Genevieve hugged herself, trembling. She remembered with horror the dirty bathroom where she had locked Eleanor. The irony of fate was brutal. Now she lived in a cell smaller, colder, and dirtier than that bathroom, and unlike Eleanor, no one would come to save her. She had lost her beauty, her freedom, and her name. Now she was just another number in the penitentiary system. The lady of Forest Hill had ended up caged. Back in the mansion, Liam approached Sarah. "Sarah, I have something for you," he said, pulling a thick envelope from his pocket. Sarah took a step back, fearful. Envelopes brought back bad memories of bribes and threats. "No, boss, I don't want anything. Just letting me continue to care for Eleanor and see her happy is payment enough. And with Leo's operation, you've already done too much by paying for the best hospital in Houston. My grandson is running around thanks to you." Liam took Sarah's hands, those hard-working, rough hands, and placed the envelope in them firmly. "Open it, please. It's not money." Sarah opened the envelope with trembling fingers, pulled out an official document with notarized seals, read the first lines, and put her hand to her mouth, stifling a cry. "Deeds?" she asked, her eyes filled with tears. "A house? It's the house on Magnolia Street, 3 blocks from here," Liam explained gently. It's yours, Sarah, fully paid for in your name so that you, your daughter, and your grandson Leo can live peacefully. You won't have to travel 2 hours by bus to come to work anymore. But boss, it's too much. I only did what my heart told me to. You saved my mother, Sarah. You faced a monster when I was blinded by arrogance. You were more of a mother to her than I was in recent years. Liam's voice broke. You gave me the chance to ask for forgiveness. That's priceless. That house is the least you deserve. Besides, Liam smiled shyly, I need you close. I've appointed you the legal guardian of my mother's care. If anything happens to me, you'll be the one to decide for her. You're part of the family, Sarah, and family takes care of family. Sarah could no longer hold back and embraced Liam, crying with gratitude, relief, and pure happiness. Thank you, my boy. Thank you. May God multiply your blessings. Eleanor, seeing the embrace, clapped from her chair, infected by the emotion of the moment, even though she didn't fully understand the legal details. Bravo, bear hug! The old woman exclaimed. Liam separated from Sarah and knelt again in front of his mother. He took her hands and kissed them one by one with devotion. Mom, Liam said, looking into her eyes, those eyes that sometimes got lost in the fog, but always recognized love. I promise I will never leave you alone again. I promise I will never put money before you again. I have sold half of the company's shares to create the Eleanor MacDonald Foundation, an organization to protect abandoned seniors. We're going to use our money to make sure no grandmother suffers what you suffered. Eleanor stroked her son's cheek, recognizing in him the little boy who once feared the dark. Lee, you're a good boy, she said with a sudden and miraculous lucidity. I always knew you'd come back. Love never forgets its way home. Liam rested his head on his mother's lap and closed his eyes, feeling absolute peace. He had lost millions of dollars in cancelled contracts due to the scandal. He had lost his reputation in superficial social circles. He had lost the woman he thought he loved. But as he felt his mother's hand caressing his hair and heard Sarah humming a lullaby while watering the plants, Liam O'Connell realized that for the first time in his life, he was truly rich. The afternoon fell golden and tranquil over the city. Justice had arrived. Evil had been purged. And, in the garden of a house that had once again become a home, 3 people united by pain and healed by loyalty began the rest of their lives. And so Liam learned that success is not measured by the height of the skyscrapers you build, but by the peace with which you sleep, knowing you have protected those who gave you life.